I am who I am because I value my past. The memories of yesterday can never be changed, but they give me a reason to live again. There is a reason I am here today, but there is no reason you lost your lives. You were called abusive names, deprived of rights to be humans, slayed because of who you were born. I am lighting a candle as the sign of resilience. I'm paying a tribute. You left a legacy, and I'm a fruit from the love you sowed. Let's say never again to genocide. There should be no war. There should be no genocide. Anyway, let's say never again to genocide. Let's say never again to genocide. I was young, I still needed you, but you were taken away from me too soon. If I had one wish, it would be seeing you again. Today we're strong men and women, even though you are not here to see. We're carrying on to make you feel proud out there, watching down on us. I am lighting a candle as the sign of resilience. I'm paying a tribute. You left a legacy, and I'm a fruit from the love you sowed. Let's say never again to genocide. There should be no war. There should be no genocide. Anyway, let's say never again to genocide. Let's say never again to genocide. I am a witness that if you and I come together as one, we can make sure genocide never happens again. History should be told and passed on to further generations. Let's all stand up and all sing out, never again to genocide. Let's say never again to genocide. There should be no war. There should be no genocide. Anyway, let's say never again again, never again, never again. We brought you flowers. 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 We brought you
Good evening, fellow Ambazonians, ladies and gentlemen. You're welcome to this very important broadcast. I would call it somewhat an impromptu in reaction of the document released yesterday by the Ambazonian House of Assembly with regards to government, the full function of government and government taking action. Yesterday afternoon, as reported by Undaunted yesterday evening with the news, you would have read an official document to the press. The press that I'm talking about, ABC Amba TV, was copied with that document, and we immediately had it in the news. And according to this document, it's a resolution. It's resolution with a reference number of House of Assembly Gov of Ambazonia, reference number 0529 2025 02. The date of this referencing was May 29, 2025, but I am made to understand that the resolutions were voted on the 3rd of May, according to the first resolution I have in front of my desk, which is going to be a portion of our conversation this evening, is a resolution calling on the immediate resignation, or that's what I would be wondering why, or impeachment and potential future criminal investigation and prosecution of Mrs. Dorotingwa, chairperson of the Ethics Commission. So lots of things in this. Before we even get into that, we'll have the Speaker of the House who is here to give some explanations to actually tell us the intricacies of all of this. And we have the second document that has to do, is still reacting to members of government. In this document we have, it says a resolution. I think the document is dated, same reference, almost the same reference. So the House voted unanimously and collectively on these pertinent issues. A resolution calling for the immediate resignation, removal, potential criminal investigation for future prosecution of the following government officials. And we have the listed government officials. You have Dr. Emmanuel Tita, Secretary of State for Health and Social Services; Mrs. Aringwa, Secretary of State for National Treasury, Dr. Kisito Elat, Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs, Mrs. Rachel Ita Tima, Under Secretary of State for Health and Social Services, Pastor Victor Mba, Presidential Advisor, Mr. Amos Tumenta, County Coordinator, Ngoketunja County, Mrs. Geraldine Tum, County Coordinator, Mezam County. The resolution has a lot of things which I will take them incrementally and slowly so that we can get an exclusive conversation with the House Speaker, who commandeered, or I would say led, the House to these resolutions. The Amazonian people will require much more explanations on what is happening. Good evening and welcome, Madam Speaker. I don't know if you can hear me, but before you even we start asking questions as to the details of these resolutions. Can you hear me, Madam Speaker?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
So before we start asking questions about these resolutions, I would like you to explain to us the scope of it in its entirety. What is the rationale? Why now? And so much has happened. So much has happened, and you have some questions to answer on behalf of government. But what's the scope of this document? What's the legal standing? And why now? Maybe just explain to us the rationale behind this move of the House of Assembly at this time. Please talk to us.
Thank you, Director Paddy, for having me here. And thank you for letting me, as the Speaker of the House, bring to light why the House took two resolutions. Significantly, they are one. The only reason they become two is because of the office that one of the Amazonians held that warranted that we handle that as a separate document. But if you look in its entirety, the same things are applicable. Fellow Amazonians, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever you will be listening to this documentary or explanation that comes from the House. To go back to what Director Paddy was asking, what's the rationale of all what is happening? About, let me say, 2023, there were some rumblings within some of the, a few people within the Amazonian government who preferred that things run a certain way, their way, or the highway, or no other way. If things didn't run the way they wanted it, then they were really bent at destroying the workings of the government. If I may say, I would say this here before I go into deeper. I may also, in the way I explain things, may bring into it some structures and how teams work. A team cannot be effective. Think about a football team. For us in the US, we call them soccer. If each player chooses to just do whatever they want, however they want to play, which part they want to play, and don't listen to their coach, or even while they are in the game and there's the umpire, or who we call the referee, and they don't follow the rules, you are bound to get the entire team suffer so many violations against them, and that may disqualify them eventually. So, with that said, because some people really did not like some things the way they saw, they felt like they should run the ship and the boat their way or no other way. They started causing rumbling, or they disliked an individual. And because of that dislike, they created a lot of upheavals and things that were detrimental and not helping the government move forward in its role to seek the restoration of our statehood. So, coming forward to 2024, most of those things that were just rumbling became shakings like earthquake, till it got to the point where we saw government officials interacting in a manner that was very unprofessional, either in public or in their working platforms. And some of those things trickled back and came even into the House. And the House did invite government, other arms of government to come in, and that we could have a conversation. And some came and some boycotted. Some government officials boycotted. This was a big government official with other arms of government, which we, by our constitution, we are mandated to kind of have those periodically, I think quarterly, if I may be exact. And so using that platform, we could now, in those meetings or sessions, talk about what is good, what is happening, what can we do to help, and where we are going. And some of those things did spill into, but unfortunately, because every party was not there, it could not really be addressed concretely. Then, Director Paddy, I'm sure if you remember fall of 2024, it got so heated to the point where the president threatened, even, it's not about the president, but the president kind of gave some ultimatums and even went as far as calling a commission for truth and reconciliation. That commission held its meetings, gave recommendations, and hoping that let me put it this way, the team could now come together in some form of understanding. Remember, Paddy, if two people live together, whether it's husband and wife, there are bound to be differences. But it's how we understand how we each function, and our likes and dislikes, and how we are wired, that we then learn to work and harness the goodness or the strength of each team member while mitigating the weaknesses of the team members. For example, if you have a good team soccer player who has speed, agility, and can really dribble that ball and hit the net, it doesn't do you very much good to put them in the goal as a goalkeeper. So you have to understand those strengths. So the Truth and Reconciliation that the president called the team came and they gave some recommendations. Unfortunately, the agitations and the people that created the rumblings continued because they were already far gone in their plans and what they wanted to do. Mind you, in December of 2023, we did have a constitutional, a constituent assembly where we had some major constitutional amendments, which led us from interim government to the government. some of these very people who were present in that in that constituent assembly
Disregarded.
now accused, even accused the president and the speaker of having done backdoor deals without the approval of the Amazonia people. When those YouTube videos from ABC Amba TV came out, they doubled down. They never saw their
The
error to
need.
even apologize and say,
Yeah.
oh, we are sorry. And so they gave another excuse. And with that said, it made it so difficult to move forward. And I think the reason was they already had in motion the plans of what they wanted to do. And in that plans, any other thought of reasoning or evidence that was brought to debunk what they had said was not reasonable, and it could not bring them to reason. They already had things.
If I get you very clearly, Madam Speaker, I know you're surely reading from somewhere, but maybe you want to look, your people want to look at your camera so that
Okay.
your camera is
I'm
up,
not reading.
I'm sure, so that the people can actually get to see you talk to them.
Yes.
So from what you just mentioned right now, you are saying that it was every action of this group of people that a resolution is now asking government to take action or asking them to resign, be removed, be impeached, whoever it is. You're saying that they had premeditated ideas, pre-planned ideas. So nothing could appease them. No matter what argument could have brought them to reasoning. That's if I get it clearly, that's what you're saying. So I'll get into that. I want us to start off with Ma Dorothy Ngwa. Let us begin with her, since you said you had to separate it because of her position in government. She occupies a serious position in government and can be impeached by law when she crosses the line. I've had issues with her involvement in community conversation as a member of government of that caliber. I remember once confronting her, but you've been talking all around the place. I want you to be specific on the issue of Ma Dorothy Ngwa, chair of the Ethics Commission. What precisely are some of those things that she did, or were some of those things that she did that you felt that were in contravention of government protocols and processes, and the orders in council that happens to be a binding document and government officials are expected to adhere to censor? You may want to be a little bit more specific on them. Let's see how to prosecute the conversation. Please talk to us.
Okay, thank you. I think I wanted to just give the generality of the things that were happening, and by no means I'm saying that there is ever going to be a perfect government or a perfect group of people. Once you have one or two people, there's bound to be differences of opinions at some point. It's how we manage those things that make us grow stronger. But when it comes to Mrs. Dorothy Ngwa, who is the chair lady of the Ethics Commission, let's start with the first thing. I mentioned the issue of the orders in council, the government transitioning from interim government to the government of the Federal Republic of Amazonia and its other listed appellation, and the moving forward to registration of the government, as well as asking government officials to surrender certain key, let me call it for us, which will be for us at this time, key important elements of things that hold our government based on our past experiences, which for America will be an equivalent of their nuclear code. No, we don't have a nuclear code, but we have some key things that help us as a government to know who is the responsible party, who is the responsible individual, which office is the responsible office that we can go to and say, hey, give us information about this, and call that person to accountability. This, that December of 2023, we had that Constituent Assembly where amendments were made. Fast forward, less than a year later, Mrs. Dorothy Ngwa, along with some House members who were part of that when that bill for amendment, constitutional amendment was placed before, were part of the team that wrote and that came up to put the final amendment in place, started saying it never happened. When all the videos came out, they doubled down. Mrs. Dorothy doubled down. She never said, I'm sorry. If you hold that office of the Ethics Commission, when something like that happens, your biggest strength is to say, I am sorry. It is not to say, oh yeah, it was never ASSC. If you remember, Director Paddy, you and I held a program, and if I can just remember the caption of that program, it was managing, it was something, processes, legislative processes during how did we call it? If I can remember, that was legislative processes during war or during what we are going through. And it explained to the people that a constituent assembly called for by the president and all the arms of government was what led to that amendment. It was never, we never had anything in our constitution that stated that it had to be called ASSC. And I did explain that. I said that was just the conference, the bigger conference that we have. And we can decide to label that conference as long as it's a constituent assembly, any appellation or alphabet appellation or alphabet.
I actually remembered you bringing that argument during the interview. I heard the president also bringing the same argument. Lots of other Ambazonians who agreed with the processes that took place and that led to the transformation from the interim government to the government, from the interim House of Representatives to now the House of Representatives. One thing was eminent. These individuals who probably did not agree had to pick, because they agreed with the government name of change. They agreed with it. They never came up to contest. They agreed with a couple of other things, the house change. They never contested. But all of this was done at the same time. But now we've seen, like you're saying, Madame Dorothy Ngwa doubled down and wouldn't take responsibility. Now we understand that it could, and she's still claiming even until today, that the processes that led to that particular change that would affect them because I want to bring this to attention. Her bone of contention started when ABC was being hijacked by her friends. And so, as the Ethics Commission, she wanted to justify the reason why the back ends of the website will not be given to the president. I want us to
Correct.
with that.
You are correct.
So, to justify that, she will question the binding documents, questioning the
Yes.
legitimacy of the government to request for them and for them to ask the president to have it. So in all of that, I actually saw a display of so much ignorance when they were talking about Constituent Assembly, ASSC, and all of that. But that's on one side. Anytime a person takes an action, it only exposes their level of understanding or of knowledge on certain issues. What is my interest now is in defense of the actions of government, because these people might feel that there was some fraudulent activity. Do you think, and if so be, explain so that others can get it, do you think that the processes that led to these changes were democratic enough vis-a-vis our current movement and the stakeholders involved in government?
Yes, Paddy, I think, not only think, I am convinced by the constitution which was laid, now termed or called the Order in Council. Remember, we also changed the name of the our constitution, which was the interim constitution. Remember, that will still be on the file. And then we went into Order in Council. So as we make amendments and put it, we call it Order in Council, going back to what we had as a government that governed us prior to the October 1st, 1961 fraud that Haijo did to us. So we went back to that appellation. That process was absolutely correct. Every tier arm of government and stakeholders were invited, and they were there present. The meeting was held. Because it was a narrow, let me put it, a smaller agenda that did not need a lot of long deliberations that we could have for days. So that was good for that time, and the time we just had that probably for half a day. That was enough on the agenda to deal with that. Mind you, at this point when the government was doing this, we were actually at a point as a government where other, I would say, groups that left, or individuals that had left and called themselves interim government, decided to register interim government. And that now led the government and placed the government at a place where we could have been sued and could have been asked to desist from using that name because it was the official name of another registered entity within the United States. So we said we are not going to continue, and so the president put that to the Constituent Assembly that held in December of 2023. I think it was both November and December. That was placed. The rationale was presented. Questions were put. It was brought to the vote. And if you remember, the House of Assembly, or the interim House of Assembly at that time, were asked, the members were asked to sit out. The stakeholders had to vote without the House, knowing that we were going to have to be the ones to vote and ratify this document. We did not want to taint the voting process of the stakeholders and the people. So their minds will be heard. And when it's coming to the House, we are now reviewing what the people want and then stand along with the people, or for whatever reason, if we saw something that needed something to be changed and put in the right place, it will be put as such. Mind you, it was tabled as a bill, and it was tabled with some things that that the president wanted. And if I remember, well, Barrister Tim read that bill, and if I remember, out of that bill, what was it that the president wanted the stakeholders to deliberate and vote on? The vice president read those, and if I remember, the chair of county coordinators asked the president, so, Mr. President, having presented all this, what would you want us to do? He said, and then it was clearly stated, we would like for you guys, as you deliberate, you ask the questions, let's vote this for the changes. And then that was voted. The House members stepped out. Then the vote was cast, and then we came back and received the results and the bill and the resolutions that came out of that meeting. And the next day, the House held an extraordinary session where we now worked on the bill, the resolutions, and then came up with the final wording and language that needed that document and those changes and amendments to be put in place. That is a process. I'm just talking and establishing how that process went about, and that was appropriate. However, for less than 12 months later, the chairlady and a few other House members who were present, who were part of drafting that language that was appropriate.
Now, when you're talking about a few other House members, what do you mean?
Maybe one House member. I will not put that House member's name on air because the House will handle that in its own chambers, disciplinary. Yes. So, they now started raising a ruckus about unconstitutionality. It's not because they said the speaker of the House and the president, but it was the deliberate, calculated lies and misinformation that really created havoc within our Amazonian community and within the many of the forests. You saw that, Paddy, you experienced, you could feel the tempo. And the only thing that brought many people to bear was the fact that the YouTube videos of that Constituent Assembly was played. And then there was the second excuse. But let's move past that point. Besides that, other things post ASSC2 or during ASSC2, the House of Assembly really had some things that they used to do that was kind of pushback because of what happened with the, let me call it the Chris Anu Marianta coup d'etat that cut back some I would say, rights or power or authority that the House had. And what they did was they pushed most of the conflict resolution to completely go to the Ethics Commission. So, with that said, the Ethics Commission was over empowered. And in over empowering them, remember, they were supposed to be there to define ethics for our government members and the government to abide by, and then to help with conflict resolution in conjunction with the Judiciary Commission that would assist in that process. But when these things started coming, and the chair lady already took sides without investigation, without asking questions, what she really did there was she placed herself as the judge, the juror, and whatever, and passed judgment on things that she was ignorant or was supposed to be or had been part of, but chose to, because I would say the only way you will do this kind of a thing is if you have an ulterior motive or you
Yeah,
have
I
something.
understand from your explanation, Madam Speaker, that the Ethics Commission chairwoman, Mrs. Dorothy Ngwa, was biased at
Yes.
every given moment. There was no logic. I remember when I was invited to make a statement about the website and many other things, and I gave a testimony. And her explanation, it was clear that she had made up her mind not to understand anything. Um, Her explanation was flawed, even when she was just saying some things out of the manipulation from Amos to Menta and Fun. And I have to give her some clarity because I understand the technical aspect of it. I'm a technician. But she still wouldn't even humble, even in that meeting, to understand this. But here is the concern. We're talking about democratic processes. It has to do with, if you mention just a single individual that was an accomplice of Madame Dorothy Ngwa within the House of Assembly, wanted to bring the entire house down because he's trying to advocate for this illegality or irregularity of that faction of people, about a few of them. My question is, and that person, if I were to calculate based on the statistics, is less than 1% of the house. Okay, let us say 1% of the house, or 5% of the house in terms of
It's an
vote.
individual. Let's leave it as such. It's an individual.
So, what does this tell you as a leader of the house when it comes to this whole thing? Do you think that the whole idea of having a house where people pick and choose what they want, accept what they don't want, or how do you think this can be navigated in moving forward?
Um, Director Paddy, let me say this: when it comes to running a government, even the head of the executive branch, who is the president, is the person that makes the final decision of whatever they may have discussed as a team, and then takes responsibility, be it good, bad, ugly, or the best. And he gives glory to his team when they win. And he takes the blame when they don't win. The good thing with the legislative arm is that one person's voice does not count, but the collective voice, because we are governed by votes, we vote, and then based on those votes, based on what the constituent that you belong to or come from, how you eat. Some things you can take it back and you will be able to take it back and discuss and bring it back, and you know the position of your constituency. But many times you will have to make some decisions based on the best interests of the people of Amazonia and your constituency. For example, if we were going to invite Director Paddy to come to the house, there will be many voices in the house that will say, hey, we need the ABC team and we need to talk to Director Paddy. And somebody will put a motion and say, hey, yes, we need to do this. Is that appropriate? And somebody will second that motion, and even a third person. And then we'll say, okay, let's take it to vote. In spite of all this discussion that we are having, is it necessary for us to have Director Paddy be invited to the house for such and such and such a thing that we have seen, or that is good, or that is needing help, or that is not going well? And then we'll vote. And if over 50% says yes, then you can. If less than 50% say yes, then you don't come. We don't invite you. So the way the house works, it's not an individual, it's a collective voting place. That's how most legislative houses or legislatures, how they operate. So let's stay on track. You asked me some of the things. So coming to Mrs. Dorothy Ngwa, the second thing that would say is, with some of the destabilization and things that have kept on going, even after the Truth and Reconciliation Committee, or however the president did call it, broad recommendation, some other things were going on, and the Ethics Commission, the members voted that they should bring in some cabinet members based on either reports or things that were happening, or things that were not going well. She refused. That letter, we would not have known how the Ethics Commission handled that. Were
What are you
it not
saying? That
that they
the Ethics Commission chair refused to take action of a vote by the Ethics Commission? Are you saying?
she did. We had a letter that the deputy chair of the Ethics Commission had to write out. She went against the entire Ethics Commission and even recused herself when, believe it or not, the listed government officials, yes, most of them were called to come explain themselves. When it came about, I think the ASRTV.
I like us to be very clear. I like us to be very clear on this. You are saying that the chairperson of the Ethics Commission wouldn't even agree to enable or facilitate processes that will lead to a conversation of the settling of this internal conflict. Is that what you're saying? That she frustrated every attempt to help the processes. Is that what you're saying?
I was not in their meeting. I only gleaned from the letter or the communicate or the position that the Ethics Commission wrote and put out to the Amazonian people. Do you remember that communicate?
Yeah, I remember that document. Yeah, maybe.
Yes.
So you are saying that the document was contested against by Mrs. Dorothy Ngwa, and therefore these members probably, okay, come again. So what happened precisely?
We have left the contention of the constitutional amendment, and now you ask me for other things. The the Ethics Commission, if I may find that within this letter, wrote to the Amazonian people, and it was called their position regarding ASRTV. And in that letter, they stated that the chairlady, when they were voting that they should bring these government officials to come explain themselves, she refused. And she also recused herself, that she wasn't going to bring them.
So what I'm trying to pick out there, Madam Speaker, I already got that point, is the fact that she had some kind of influence, because I want the people of Amazonia to understand what has led to this moment. So she had some kind of influence or affiliation that wouldn't allow government to fully function in settling the conflict.
Correct. Okay. That's what it implies.
Now, while you're looking at it, I'd like us to move a little bit forward. Now, I want to ask this question. What has happened? Now, has the House, what was the process, what is needed, for instance, owing to the fact that she has breached her constitutional allowance or wasted it as a government senior official, owing to the fact that he has enabled recalcitrance and rebellion within government, and it is evident from even the explanations you're providing? Is there any room for pardon? If so be, has the government made any attempt to give her an opportunity where she can be pardoned and that we can move on as a collective?
Yes, we did. We did twice. The House invited her and the others that we will so list them. We invited them, sent out an invitation for an extraordinary session of the House. That letter was sent out on April 13th of 2025.
So honestly, Madam Speaker, what was the objective of that invite? Was it to now judge them for the mistake they have done, or to look for a way to seek for a solution?
It was an inquiry. We wanted them to come explain themselves.
Their point.
We didn't want to judge one way or the other without hearing from them. Yeah. At this point, the ASRTV had already been established. The letter of the Ethics Commission was already out there.
Yeah.
And then the House met. Every one of those who were invited to come for the inquiry, who are all part of the clique, who are part of the ASRTV. It is not a fight against ASRTV versus ABC Amba TV. No, Let me be clear. It is the complete disregard of government, the arms of government, the Constitution, and sowing seed of discord, sabotage, and destabilization in the process
of government institution.
Yes, and us fighting to get our restoration. And even in trying to do that, they did try to show that, okay, we are also doing our own, diplomacy, which some people call
a lot of tobacco.
There are so many things that are doing. Mind you, nobody has ever stopped any of us American citizens from meeting with our representatives, putting our plight out of before them to go advocate for the position of the Amazonian people and the restoration of their statehood. Nobody has ever stopped.
I know that, Madam Speaker, I understand that your camera is different from where you're getting your feedback image. Maybe you should be looking at your camera while you're talking. Yes, so that you can connect with people that are listening to you I understand.
Thank
We're
you.
going to
Thank
work
you.
on that setup subsequently. So yes,
All right.
let us hear.
Thank you. Um, I think I know what I'll do next time. I'll raise my monitor because I'm
No,
glued to
no,
my
that's fine.
monitor
You're
more
doing a
than
good job. You're
I'm
doing an
glued
excellent.
to my monitor more than to my to my
Yeah,
camera.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So so then on because they failed, it was a no show on that April 19th. So the House now decided to say, okay, since they did not show up, let us now, the House deliberated, voted again, and said, let's give them a second chance. And in this second chance, since they did not want to come for the inquiry, we will now label what are the things that are specific to what we are concerned about. And on the 23rd of April, we sent them that invitation with the specific things so that it would have helped them to say, hey, here are the things that the House is concerned. Prepare yourself. Come to a House meeting on May the 3rd. And there was no show, no acknowledgement what the Secretary General got. The first letter, I sent them out. The second one, the Secretary General of the House sent them out to them. But guess what? All he had was insults from most of
Okay.
them.
Yeah, we'll come
But
to
then,
that in sorts
yes,
and this because what I'm trying to pull out from this whole conversation is the mindset of these individuals. I know they are disgruntled, but I want to find out to know if they have some reason or it's just about the desire to control because I don't want it to be what Tarh Paddy King is saying. My opinion is that there is this excess desire to control, and therefore, if it is not my way, it should be the highway. But now, the president has taken a long time. If I were the president, maybe this matter would have ended my way long ago. But for those who are not aware, this crisis within government have been in motion for at least 2 years. I happen to have it. And it moved from one thing to another from the left to it was just when they try to solve this, the next one is coming. So it's like a group of people just wanting control. And as it was to me, I saw it like a cancerous, because along the way they got some sympathizers. We cannot deny that.
yes,
And the
of
team
course.
grew up from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to the number that they have today and to the establishment of the television that they're having. I said some few weeks ago on TV that every Amazonian has a right to start a TV. There's no problem.
Correct. That's true.
Anybody can do a television, but it is
Mm-hmm.
the objective of this television, the name of this television. One of their members ignorantly told me at one time, nobody owns Amazonia. So it's about people trying to show ownership and doing things that are disruptive. Because if they had created a podcast or created a private television, nobody has a problem with Chris Anovo creating his TV. Chris
Right.
Ano was clear about it. He said, I want to do my retirement business. He was very clear about it. But now, Madam Speaker, if I would draw a conclusion on this so we can move forward, so much for us to discuss, we don't have too much time this evening, is the fact
Mm-hmm.
that efforts have been made and the individuals just were unwilling to have open dialogue. I'm correct. Am I
You
correct?
are you are correct. And the reason being that I think every avenue that was put by different arms of government, the executive branch tried with the Truth and Reconciliation, they showed up there. I think they did because things were recommendations came out. Um, Then the legislative arm of government also, and mind you, there were many people also, some House members that are sympathizers to. I don't want it to look like everybody in the House just went and all they did was they agreed. They had arguments as to why they thought this was that or that. But when it came finally to voting on the resolution, those resolutions, for those who were present during the session, they unanimously voted. So
So
the
you're saying
House
that
doesn't vote.
these resolutions were voted 100%. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, except for
So
the few
the
that
House,
abstained. I will have to look at the statistics if any people abstain, but unanimously, the overwhelmingly, the resolutions were voted. I will have to look for that. I will have to get you the
yes, I think the
statistics.
public would like to know those statistics. Now, moving on, there is the other document that was also voted the same day, and we have about uh, some numbers of people here that are involved. About 8 of them, if I'm not mistaken. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8
Oh yes,
members
Paddy, can
of
I?
government.
I have that statistics because I am one that loves to take notes when things happen.
Yes, please go ahead.
Resolution letter, resolution letter. Okay.
You may want to give it in
13 out of
percentage, not necessarily the number. Just give
100%.
percentage.
It was 100%. Yes. It was
Okay, so
100%.
you're saying that the vote was 100%.
Yes.
Amazing. So these are people that do not, I don't know if it is a fraud. So I don't know if they are thinking that Ambazonians have just chosen to conspire against them. But leadership at this level where you are unable, if it is not your way, you just want to have a destruction, is a bad sign. Now, you have other members here, you're asking, they said you're calling the resolution, calling for the immediate resignation, removal, potential criminal investigation for future prosecution of the following government officials. These are very strong statements here. You're asking for removal. You're asking for dismissal, removal potential of this. I need to understand what that really means. But
Okay.
then,
Let's
my
let's
question
take
I
it
want
the
to ask you as you react to this is, what is prescribed in the binding document? What should government do when members of government of this caliber operating in such offices outrightly defy constitutional protocols, the constitutional processes, despise leadership, and act as recalcitrants? What should government do? What actions should be taken by government in such situations? What is in the law? And what do you
okay.
think is in the law that the government has not applied?
Uh
Speak
Paddy,
up.
let's establish this.
Yeah.
Being the fact that we do not have our courts under our control. Therefore, we cannot really put what we call a penal code where it says if you do this, you will be punished by this up to this, and here are the consequences of this action, and the consequences include you being locked up or you paying a fine. Because we don't have that, the orders in council is the narrow, I would say, constitution or rules that helps to guide us navigate the process of us going through the quest for the restoration of our statehood. Once we get to I guarantee you, we're gonna have lots of legal minds that will sit as they will be put together by the president,
Yeah.
whoever that president will be as we get to Boya. They will sit and draw a constitution based on what type of government we really are going to operate under. Parliamentary versus we have different styles of government. Whether it is, are we going to like the parliamentary house where the president or the prime minister of the party that has the most seat now forms the government. So we
Now,
want
I
to
want us to
decide
talk
all.
about, you're not talking about parliament here. I want us to
I'm
talk
heading.
about,
I'm heading there.
I want us to talk about cabinet. The cabinet is appointment, is by appointment. And we have
Yes.
cabinet members here that have been outlaws, that they have been above the laws. There's no doubt about that. This has created a lot of vexation within the Amazonian community. Amazonians have not been happy because they felt like these individuals should have been disciplined before now, called on to. So there are lots of arguments that have gone through. The president has said it is his way to be patient. And the patience has caused defiance upon defiance of the Amazonian people and their constitution. So I'm asking, what, based on the government right now, leadership has, in their discretion, have a right in the way they want to execute the law at certain points. But based on what Amazonia has in order now, what should be when you have people of gross conduct, misconduct as top officials? We know the things you have just mentioned here. It's not me using words. When you have gross misconduct within government, what should be the appropriate action? And how should we
I
wait
think
again for another 2 or 10 years? We don't have courts, we don't have the police, we can't arrest anybody. Does it mean we can't function without those offices? And anybody can just keep doing and creating this kind of chaos for us to get to this point? That's my question.
no. No, I don't think so. I think even within whatever governing or whatever binding documents we have that guide us through the process of the quest of our restored statehood, there are some common sense. Some things are just basic common sense. You know, you don't do that. You're not rude to your boss. You don't despise your boss or an institution or the binding documents. Even if you don't like an aspect within the orders in council, hey, there will be another time when you can and you should raise that in a constituent assembly, and maybe it will be thought provoking that will cause other people to think and say, maybe we should change this. But mind you, the house by itself does have its rules that governs it. And because we have those rules embedded in our rules, we also have some disciplinary actions for conducts and behavior that are out of line. The cabinet members are appointed by the president to serve within his cabinet, and he does have the right, how and whenever he so chooses, to reshuffle that cabinet, remove somebody or add somebody, or decide that, hey, I'm not going to fill this post for now because I don't need the services and I need this person to be more of service to me in this area. That is at the president's own prerogative to do that. Within the legislative arm, we have our own, and you can see that even within the Ethics Commission, so they probably also have things. That's why they were able to still move on past the fact that the head of the Ethics Commission, the chair lady, um, oppose the Ethics Commission from acting and recuse herself. So that allowed the deputy to move in, and then the Ethics Commission, our commissioners that were present, moved on with whatever letter and however they proceeded in inviting the cabinet members. Remember, these cabinet members were invited to the Ethics Commission. The very head of that Ethics Commission actually did not want them there. I don't know if they ever went there. And so that is undermining one, let's say, agency within the government, a powerful one for that matter, because it's the one that really helps to help, is supposed to help us. Let's say the frictions we have, they're supposed to put the grease so the frictions don't hurt that much, so we can glide and move faster. Then we have the legislative arm of the government for outright disobedience. One, that is just saying, I don't care about this government. Refusal to uphold the amended constitution outright. You're also just making a statement, I don't care about this government. Whether you think you are or you are not, you are already making that statement by your actions and how you do things. So I just would wonder. Yes.
Madam Speaker, there's no doubt that as we speak right now, every government has a vision that they follow.
Yes.
And
correct.
With all of this court, you have people who have justified their actions that are in contravention of the vision of the leadership of this government. They have justified it with the fact that any Ambazonian can also. I now hear Pastor Victor saying it on air that nobody that is contradicting himself. And a lot of them have said so. Some have said that to me, some have said that publicly, and they keep saying that no particular Ambazonian will be the one to take us to Boya. In other words, they are trying to indict the president that it must not be him. Some of them have said that it must not be him. So it is clear that they are not in conformity with the vision of this leadership, meaning that they have not been useful with that vision. They have been operating as oppositions. Is there any reason why, until this day that we speak, the government is still contemplating and asking or urging them to be the ones to resign? Is there any reason why the government is still keeping people that are not useful? They do not participate in government fundraisers. We know some of them outrightly sabotage government fundraiser processes. We have evidence to that. Some of them outrightly want to do their own thing, criticizes what the president is doing. Some of them, to justify their diplomacy, have criticized the president's diplomacy. My question is, they have now become more of a disadvantage together than an advantage added. Is there any reason why the government is still contemplating or requesting but for them to start thinking they have to resign? Because there is no categoric statement here that urges or dismisses them or urges or the government to have them dismissed. Is there any reason?
We actually did call on them to resign, and if they do not, then the president should activate his authority to remove them from government. We do not want them, and part of it is the House said these people should no longer, because of how they operate and what the damage they are causing. It's sad because the damage they are causing is more from within. Let me put it this way: differences of opinion within the government is a healthy thing, but how you handle that, Paddy, you and I never agree 100% of the time, do we? We've
I'm
had
not
many
sure.
places.
Yeah, I'm not
Great,
very
and
sure
I'm
about
glad
that.
that you're
Yeah.
not very sure. You
I'm not
and
very sure
I
that
are on
we
some.
agree 100% on a couple of issues. That's true.
That's true,
I agree
but
with
it
you
is
that we have not
healthy.
agreed on to 100%. Yeah.
Yes, but it's healthy. Why? Because you listen to another view and see something from another angle, and then I listen to where you're coming from, and I see something. And for example, you may put something down, and you say, and I said, "Have you thought about this? Do you know about this?" And you may have this flamboyant something that you may think is wonderful until somebody else starts coming to question and ask you questions. And then you say, I think I did not think about this possibility of something happening. So
Yeah.
having the, uh, like, let me use what the Bible says, when you have many advisors, uh, when a king has many advisors, they give him the advice that helps him to win the war. But if you fail to have very good advisors, then you're bound to go with limited information or just your narrow tunnel vision, and your peripheral vision will not be there. Add the other peripheral vision of the other people, which will end up giving you 160-degree vision because you have many more eyes that are all around to see. Then you will miss a lot of things.
So
And
this
that is
this,
the
this, is
beauty
the,
of
this, is the, que- this is where I'm driving at. This
the house did
collective,
call for their resignation, if that
yes,
was what you wanted. We did.
yeah, yes.
And
Now
if they
this is where I'm
told,
driving at. Madam Speaker, I'm going towards a direction. My question now is this: how do you think this decision from the House? What are you expecting from this? How is it going to impact the movement, the struggle? Now that the Amazonian people are going to receive this, we understand that some individuals concerned have already started reacting in their usual manner by insulting. We understand that was expected, that was predictable. So, but generally, how do you expect this to impact the struggle?
here's what I expect this to do. I expect the president, this, let me put it this way, these individuals are already gone. They are gone by how they act and they undermine the government, but still want to stay within the government and reap the benefit of the fact that this government has an image, and not just an image, but is known and recognized even in the international community, even if they don't want to say so openly. So they have realized, for one reason, um, the first split that happened, the people took the and so for created the IGK. They did nothing. They just didn't go. The Chris Anu and the Marianta, they went. They did nothing, and the whatever they did, yes, they may be in other circles, but their impact is not felt like if they had stayed within the government and worked within the government and understand each order, or give and take without trying to sabotage. Um, we do have strong personality. For you to even be involved in a revolutionary fight for the restoration quest of something that the international community would like to put a lid on and say, let's forget it. We gave these people their independence in 1961. So let's say, for you to be in their faces and do that, you must be of some strong tenacity and conviction. But if your conviction makes you not to hear the voices of the others with whom you are on your team, or you start now being the one that you are cutting the legs, putting your team members, causing injury to your team members. Then the teams suddenly all your reserves are put in, and they too get injury, and guess what? They are out. Let me tell you, I will not be surprised. I am making this statement, and it can be strong. La Republique has maybe a hand in some of these things.
Now,
I'm not saying,
before we get to that, which is something I'm going to have us talk more. I'm going to have us talk more on that, Madam Speaker. As you look at your camera, I'm going to have us talk more on that towards the end. The involvement of or what we have some Amazonians who call infiltration. But this is something that's vital for us to have a conversation about. Is the fact that from your statement, government has given up that these people can repent or are even willing to repent. And also from your statement, it is clear that even if they are dismissed today, it's not going to have any drastic impact directly on the government, because they have been very irrelevant for a long time. They have not been helping the government's vision for a long time. Am I correct?
I think they've been actually pulling back and causing more injury. Just remember the analogy.
Their presence within government is causing more harm than good.
More injury. Yes.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about
Can people change? Can people change?
There are those who, yeah. Can people change?
Yes.
Is there any allowance? Good question. Can people change? Yes. Is there any allowance within government now to accommodate these people after close to 2 years, the majority of them doing what they're doing, and be patient until they can change? They'll continue with the harm until they can change to come to their senses. Is there any accommodation or allowance for that?
Let me put it this way. Let me say this. Some people are, I would say, you always have the ringleaders, the master brain that brings all this, because they may. I remember when the one from Arianta Chris Anu happened, they said they were disgruntled.
Yeah.
Let me be honest. If I got to a point where I could not, the trajectory or the path which the government is taking is one that I no longer believe in, it's better for me to step aside and let that group. People have the freedom and right to assembly and associate and move in a direction. And if I don't believe and don't accept that direction, and I have the freedom and the right to dissociate and move on, or if I want to stay or do something else. But to try to destroy, to sabotage, it's a different thing for an entity, a government that is working all, and people putting their resources, their sweat, and lives as being wasted on the ground just so that we can get this statehood restored. Just makes a delay, and that is not healthy. It is really unhealthy, and it doesn't show a sign of maturity and a mature leader. I would put this, I am not here to dissect each individual person's character, because even in their personality traits, there are strengths in them that helps, and in their personality traits, there are weaknesses. The question is, in their functioning, have they come to the point where familiarity has breed contempt, or that they have become contentious, ignore because they think they are indispensable? That
I
is a
suspect
question
some
I
of them.
throw out
I
there.
suspect some of them are getting very disgruntled because they felt like, for one reason or another, that's my suspicion. I could be wrong. They were indispensable. So at one point, when they got too high with their demands and it was going to be their way, they were surprised that Amazonians were willing to move on. And they just couldn't get it. So they had to start their own TV. They just couldn't get it. Things keep going. They just couldn't get
Okay.
it. They have to hijack the websites and so on and so forth. So looking at what it is now, I want us to be concluding this program right now. You are thinking that based on affiliation, I cannot agree any less. Some of them have done the things and the way they have done them. And I was surprised, particularly. I told Madame Dorothy on a call, as I'm shocked with the way she's reasoning and the way she is handling some things. Is because of her affiliation, because she has never ever seemed to see anything wrong with her close affiliation, what they do. Like you said, we shouldn't call names. And these, some of them are people who have created the biggest problem that the struggle has ever known. But she really didn't seem to see anything. She would embarrass her office so badly just to defend it. Now I'm asking you, Madam Speaker, of all that has happened, within you have details as a top government official. What lessons have you learned, or have we, or do you think we as a people should learn? And how best can the government navigate through similar situations? Because we don't think that even if they have to leave now, saints have been left. How best is the government positioning itself to navigate through such situations?
I think we have not learned to be more proactive, but we have been very reactionary. Why do I say that? The only one part that I can say we happen to have tried to be proactive was when the one of Julius Ayuk Tabe was impeached. The House was proactive on that one because they saw what was coming in, and some of the advisors around Julius from behind bars were giving him were giving him advice to try to rule from, let me say, Kondengi. And that's no place for you to want to rule a revolutionary group that is seeking to secede, or not. Let me not call it secede, because to La Republique it was secession, but that wants to ascertain and establish its lost statehood. You will not be able to do that, especially when you are the jewel on the crown that they are wearing. So we have learned and we haven't learned. And part of the learning, I would say, is we have learned because while this could have happened, and a big chunk of Amazonians within the government would have been swept across the river with them. I have seen Amazonians now, when they see these things, they smell it and they come out and speak against it. And in so doing, it brings a derailment, a distraction from the goals that we really are aspiring to attain, and it almost gives our oppressor another voice to say, there we go, didn't we tell you these people cannot even govern themselves? But then we also have the other part that while we now fight like a mother bear robbed of her cubs, we are also not letting it take down. And that is why part of our constitutional amendments or orders in council is what is helping us. One, if you remember, during the days of Marianta and Chris Anu, they took some key elements that they went with. In the case, they took the website that always brought us back to trying to work things from scratch. Was that a good thing? And then they kill. And then this is another bigger lesson that we as Amazonians, we have to start learning to do some things differently. Some of the things I'm not going to discuss here. I've shared my ideas with the president about it so that we can have a better, stronger government and its agencies that are not beholden to one individual thinking that because they do this, they do that, or they are this, then everything, they hold the power in their hands. That is the other thing that we have learned along the way. I hope we will be able to grow in implementing some other ways of doing, let me say, doing business as a government that safeguard, which we already started when we had that orders in council, talking about some of the things
those were measures learned from past mistakes.
Yes.
You understand that as we navigate through these pilot structures and we're moving forward, there are lots of lessons, every battle as we go. Many more things will happen, but it takes a visionary leadership to navigate them. I just want to comment on something you would have said before you can give your last remark so that we can round up this program. What I want to comment is Amazonians in general should try. There's a difference between being proactive and being skeptical. That when you're just being skepticism could shy people away. When you want to, for instance, consider the mistakes of Chris Ano and affiliated with Tarh Paddy without necessarily examining the personalities and the work the both of them are doing intricately, it becomes a problem. When you want to now treat other cabinet members with contempt because of what some are doing today, without necessarily examining their character, it becomes a problem. So how do we solve all of these problems? Is to have institutions that are functional, that are strong, and that people are not using, because there are those who feel that some of these problems have been prolongated because of sentimental attachments. And this is the record I've placed for myself, whereby in spite of who you are, a lot of people don't know, or once I say it, that Eric Tato is my younger brother. A lot of people don't know that I have a father and son relationship with Sisiko Julius Ayuk Tabe. A lot of people, was my father's very good friend, even at the time he was still working in Sonaya. And he still calls me a son even up to today. I still have communication with his adopted daughter that's in Canada now. We talk regularly. A lot of people don't know school past. I have very close friends. And in spite of the relationship I have with you, and this is something my family knows very well, I separate professionalism with relationship. So people should stop trying to think that because some cabinet members are behaving the way they are behaving now, every cabinet member is that way. It could shy some people. It's like we're sniffing and suspecting everybody. I know it's difficult to live in such an environment where there's no law enforcement. So, Madam Speaker, all of these lessons we have learned, you've suggested that we need to be more proactive. We need to put structures that could help us control systems. You're hoping that this will help to restore some Amazonians that feel oppressed by the presence of some of these individuals to continue working. What are some of those final words you're giving to the people today? Some of them at the home front and diaspora were looking up to some of these individuals that are presented poor conduct within government. What do you have to tell the people of Amazonia in conclusion, please?
I think, Paddy, what I want to say, I will probably even just pick up what the last advice we gave Ambazonia people. First of all, I want to say that it's never been the mind of or in the house per se to kind of chop off. If you look on that list, you have how many cabinet members of the president in on that list? It's a significant number of cabinet members. I think there are about 4 or 5 of them there, plus one advisor. We are not in the business of just wanting to weaken the executive branch. We are rather in the business of letting the executive branch bring in people. If you're tired and you are within the government, if you're exhausted, please take some time. You can take time off. You can take some rest. And if you don't want, it's not an easy task. By no means. Most of us go to work, have jobs, and then we still come to do stuff for Amazonia. It is not easy. Most of us, not only do we go to work and come back and do the work for Amazonia, but we also have to spend our own personal resources to push and get the Amazonia stuff moving forward. And even with that, it's sometimes not enough. But let me read what the House did call on the Amazonian people to do. The House of Assembly calls upon the Amazonian people to remain vigilant and united, rejecting all forms of disinformation and maintaining loyalty to the duly established government of the Southern Cameroons, aka Federal Republic of Amazonia. The House also urges the international community and stakeholders not to perceive this corrective action as a lack of cohesion within the leadership of the Southern Cameroons and Amazonian liberation struggle. Actually, this is an enforcement of constitutional or order in council provision for proactive measures to ensure discipline, loyalty, as well as saying if you have a dissenting voice or a difference of opinion, use a constructive manner within the government to express that. And we also want our people to remain focused on our main goal. Our real goal is the restoration of our statehood, the government of Southern Cameroons, the Federal Republic of Amazonia. That is what we all strive for, to get to Boya. And we are going to do this in a manner that will be helpful. Mind you, we are not by any means saying that these individuals, we are calling for them to be taken out or for them to resign. It's because they've not done any good to the Amazonia cause. No, the Amazonia cause for the restoration of their statehood is a relay. When you get tired, or if you start bending the rules, when you're running in a relay, you drop the baton or you get out, guess what? Some of those rules just disqualify you. So as you ran the part that you ran, the stretch that you ran, and if you did well and you are doing well, do well, continue. If you're tired, take a break. But one thing I want to recommend, those of us who are active now, please reach out to other Amazonians. Tell them let them re-educate them. Many of them say that it is not one thing. It is our thing together with them. Yes, we want to stay together, but we even in staying together, we stay together as a people, but we aspire for the restoration of our nation statehood. Maybe different. It may have different umbrella. Prime Minister Dion Gote feels like he needs to stay with La Republique. Fair and well. Fine for him. One day, he might just seek to remain the citizen there, and maybe he might come to us and seek but permanent resident status or visitation rights, since he wants but that once we are fully a statehood. Or maybe at that time he will change his mind. But I know deep down in the core of every Amazonian who has experienced the discrimination, who has experienced and know what happened and what we lost, in their own very core, they do want our statehood to be restored. They can see, except you are corrupted, you are wicked, and all you want is for yourself, myself, me, and I, my family, and no one else, then all you will stay. And all you will want to do is to stay where you think you have some advantage to pick crumbs off the table. Mind you, most of the crumbs you're picking are things that came from your own father's farm that others are eating on the table and letting crumbs drop to you, and you can't eat what the produce that came from your father's farm. So, Amazonians, thank you for listening. Thank you for helping us as we navigate this. Be sure the whole process of what happened did not happen in a day, did not happen in 3 months, in 6 months. Like Director Paddy said, this is something that has gone on for almost 2 years. And so the allowance, the mercy that had been shown and given was there. But we also, at one point, if you have what we call boil, or you have, at some point when it gets to be painful, to salvage that part of the body surgically, it will have to be incised and the pus drained out so that proper healing can happen and the function of that part of the body restored. So we are doing some of these corrective measures so that pus will be drained out, and when it's drained out, healing can start happening with the appropriate treatment and the appropriate medications and care for the wound. It will be restored, healing will happen, and total function of that body part will be restored. And this is our cry, that we work together. We can collaborate with other groups, but we as a government, we know that as a government, we carry the torch fire, and it is in our hands. And we want to build strong institutions and not strong men or women or strong man mentality. We want stronger institutions that will be able to stand the test of time, that in 100 years, in 200 years, in 400 years, people will say, these institutions that we built from this point in time have been able to sustain the nation, the people, and we are still riding on the foundation to know that all men are created equal and we are equal before the law. Thank you, Amazonians.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker of the House of Assembly. We've had more than 90 minutes into this exclusive discussion, and I would say it has been insightful. The many at this point will understand the document that has just been released from your office that represents the unanimous vote to have certain cabinet members, because of misconduct, to resign or be removed or be dismissed from their functions as government, not dismissed from the struggle. We understand that an impeachment has been voted against the chairperson of the Ethics Commission. And so much Ambazonians are expecting from this discussion tonight. The Speaker of the House strongly believes that this action will not change so much. It will not have any detrimental effect on the government, because these individuals have literally for several months been more of a disadvantage than an advantage to the government. It will simply create room for probably new people to take responsibility and run with their offices. So we look forward to that. It's unusual that you have me on Wednesdays. I would have to come up when there's something this serious. So until Saturday, when we are going to be reviewing Ambazonia this week, it's been Tarh Paddy King. I want you a very good night, and I'll leave you with these images from ABC.
Get ready for an evolution in broadcasting. ABC Networks 24 proudly presents Mission 2025, a groundbreaking launch that will change the way you experience television.
Beginning this Saturday, April 19, 2025, ABC Networks 24 ushers in a new era with 24-hour live programming that will keep you informed and inspired around the clock. Witness the power of cutting-edge technology as ABC Amba TV elevates its broadcast standards to the pinnacle of modern-day viewing.
All your favorite shows are back and better than ever, including Undaunted ABC Amba News and military briefings. Plus, explore the rich tapestry of Ambazonia with our Amba history and engage in critical discussions in ethics for an emerging nation. Experience the redefined classics that you love alongside thrilling new shows set to captivate Ambazonians across the globe. But that's not all. Mission 2025 introduces brand new programming like Global Business News Today, offering in-depth analysis of markets, industrialization, and global trade. Dive into the heartbeat of Ambazonia with County Roots, exploring the sociology and governance from rural to urban landscapes. Wake up to Ambazonia Arise, your premier morning show, delivering news, social media buzz, and newspaper insights to start your day informed and connected. Join us for Mission 2025, where innovation meets tradition and the future of television in Ambazonia begins, only on ABC Networks 24.
Stay tuned this Saturday as we embark on this thrilling new journey. Don't miss out.
Here comes the dawn of Mission 2025, your window to the world. Starting this Saturday, be a part of it. Subscribe and donate now.